I always knew the day would come when I'd have to burn my family to the ground. I just didn't expect it to start with a notification from Credit Karma. My name is London, and I've spent 28 years being the family disappointment. The daughter who couldn't measure up to her brilliant brother Mason, future doctor and golden child extraordinaire. At least, that's what everyone thought.
London, honey, could you at least try to look interested? Mom's voice cut through my thoughts at our weekly family dinner. We're planning Mason's graduation party. I stabbed at my overcooked chicken, forcing a smile. Sorry, just tired from work. Oh, yes, your little accounting job. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Speaking of money, we'll need everyone to chip in for the party. It's going to be quite the celebration. Dad cleared his throat. Virginia, maybe we should... Abraham, please. Our son is graduating medical school. In Europe. This isn't the time to be stingy. I took a long sip of wine. How much? Well, we're thinking of renting the Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom, with catering, decorations, and the string quartet Mason requested. Mom pulled out a notebook filled with her meticulous planning. About $5,000 per person should cover it. I nearly choked. $5,000? Mom, that's insane. London, she snapped. Your brother has worked incredibly hard. He deserves this. Yeah, about that. I pulled out my phone, opening the email I'd received that morning. Funny thing happened today. I got a notification about a charge at some place called Club Paradiso in Madrid, 4,000 euros, on my credit. The room went silent. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Must be a mistake, Dad mumbled, suddenly very interested in his green beans. That's what I thought too. So I called the bank. I looked directly at Mom. The charge was approved using my social security number and my maiden name, but I've never been to Spain. Mom's face tightened. Well, clearly there's been some identity theft. You should be more careful with your information, London. Right. Identity theft. I stood up, gathering my things. I should go. Big day at work tomorrow, counting all my little numbers. London, Dad called after me, but I was already heading for the door. In my car, I pulled up the Credit Karma app again. The Spanish club charge was just the beginning. There were credit cards I'd never opened, loans I'd never taken, all traced back to Madrid, where my perfect brother was supposedly studying medicine. My phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Yara. You okay? Aunt Virginia just called my mom ranting about you making a scene. I typed back. Remember when we were kids and you said Mason was full of shit? I think I finally have proof. 3 dots appeared, then, come over, bring wine, and screenshots of everything. As I drove to Yara's, another notification popped up. A new charge, this time from a luxury car rental in Barcelona. Under my name, of course. My whole life, I'd been the shadow to Mason's light. The practical accountant versus the brilliant doctor. Every birthday, every holiday, every family gathering was a reminder of how I'd failed to measure up. Mom had even started a tradition of giving Mason a gift on my birthday. To make sure he didn't feel left out, I'd swallowed it all. The comparisons, the criticism, the constant pressure to be more like your brother. I'd smiled through the mortgage refinancing to pay for his tuition, nodded when Mom insisted I cancel my vacation plans because Mason needs new equipment for his residency. But now I had something concrete. Numbers don't lie. It's the first rule of accounting. And these numbers told a story of fraud, theft, and years of calculated deception. My phone buzzed again. Mom. I expect you to apologize at next week's dinner. And please bring your contribution for the party. Mason specifically requested that champagne fountain. I turned off my phone and pressed the accelerator. The time for being quiet, reliable London was over. They wanted a family celebration? Fine. But this party was going to have one hell of a surprise ending. First, though, I needed to figure out exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. Good thing I'm an accountant. Following money trails is what I do best.
and Brother Dearest had left quite a trail to follow. I pulled into Yara's driveway, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Time to dethrone the golden boy, I whispered to myself. Let's see how well your medical degree holds up under audit. Holy shit, Yara whispered, scrolling through my credit report. How did no one notice this before? We sat cross-legged on her living room floor, surrounded by laptops, wine bottles, and printed bank statements. 3 hours into our investigation, and the picture was getting uglier by the minute. Because I trusted my family, I said, taking another sip of wine. Never bothered checking my credit until that Spanish club charge triggered the alert. Yara grabbed her laptop. Okay, let's start with the basics. What's the name of his medical school again? Universidad Central de Madrid. I pulled up the email Mom had forwarded to the entire family last year, announcing Mason's clinical rotations. Though I'm starting to wonder if that's even real. It's real, Yara said, typing. But their website has a student verification system. She clicked through several pages. Want me to check? My heart pounded. Do it. Yara typed Mason's name into the search field. The system loaded for a moment, then displayed a message in Spanish. What's it say? Hold on. She copied the text into a translator. No student records found matching this name and date of birth. I felt sick. Try variations of his name? Nothing. We tried every combination we could think of. The school had never heard of Mason Garcia. Maybe... I hesitated. Maybe try my name? Yara's eyes widened. She typed London Garcia into the system. This time, a record appeared. There's an ID number registered, she said quietly, but it was deactivated 3 years ago due to academic dishonesty and fraudulent documentation. The room spun. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking as I dialed the international number listed on the university's contact page. Hello? A woman answered in accented English. Universidad Central de Madrid. Hi, I'm calling about a student verification. I tried to keep my voice steady. My brother is supposedly graduating this year, and we're planning his party. Name? Mason Garcia. One moment. Keys clicked in the background. I'm sorry, we have no record of this student. What about London Garcia? A pause. Yes, this student was enrolled briefly but was expelled in 2020 for falsifying documents and academic misconduct. Are you calling about the outstanding fees? I hung up, bile rising in my throat. He used my identity to enroll, then got kicked out 3 years ago. Yara was already pulling up Mason's Instagram. Look at the timestamps. All these photos of him in scrubs, in lecture halls, they're recycled. Posted and reposted with different captions. But where's he actually been? What's he doing with all the money? Let me try something. Yara opened Facebook and searched for Bowen Wallace, Mason's supposed roommate. Found him. Oh no. I leaned over. Bowen's profile showed him partying at clubs across Europe, and there, in photo after photo, was Mason. No scrubs, no textbooks, just designer clothes, expensive cars, and endless parties. There's more, Yara said, clicking through to Bowen's business page. He runs some kind of document services company, specializing in student visas and academic credentials. My phone buzzed. Dad, can we talk? Alone? I showed Yara the message. She squeezed my hand. He knows something. Yeah, I stood up, gathering my evidence. Time to see just how deep the family denial goes. I met Dad at our old neighborhood park. He sat on a bench, looking older than I'd ever seen him. London, he started, not meeting my eyes. About dinner last night. Did you know? I cut him off. About Mason? He stared at his hands. I had suspicions. The stories didn't always add up, but your mother was so proud, so sure. He stole my identity, Dad, used my name to commit fraud, and you let him? I didn't know about that part. His voice cracked. I couldn't bear to look too closely, to risk destroying what your mother believed in. What about what I believed in? What about protecting me? Dad reached for my arm, but I stepped back. The graduation party's in 3 weeks, I said coldly. Maybe you should start preparing Mom for a different kind of celebration. As I walked away, my phone lit up with another credit alert. A new charge from Barcelona, first-class plane tickets to London. Mason was coming home. Perfect. Let him come. Let him stand in front of everyone and play the role of successful son one last time. I had 3 weeks to build an airtight case, and this accountant was about to show her family exactly what happens when you push the disappointing daughter too far. I texted Yara, "Get ready. This audit's about to go nuclear." Her response came instantly. "Finally, time to make the golden boy tarnish." "Look at this," Yara said, turning her laptop toward me. "Mason's Venmo transactions. Public, all of them." We'd converted her home office into what we called the truth room, walls covered with printouts and sticky notes connecting the dots of Mason's deception. "Jesus," I muttered, scrolling through the payments. $5,000 to Bowen for document processing, $2,000 to someone named Jake for transcript services. And what's this pattern of $100 payments to Harley? Harley? Your work friend Harley? I nodded, feeling my stomach drop. The payments were regular, monthly, starting right around the time I'd first mentioned my suspicions about Mason at work. He's been paying her to spy on me. My phone rang. Speaking of the devil, Harley's name flashed on the screen. I hit ignore. "Your brother's not just a fraud," Yara said, pulling up more records. "He's running a whole operation. Look at his LinkedIn. He's got 3 different profiles under variations of his name, each claiming different credentials. Send me everything." I opened my laptop, logging into my old Gmail account to archive the evidence. That's when I saw it. An email Mason had forwarded to himself years ago. Subject line, "London's important documents." My hands trembled as I opened it. There it was, a scan of my social security card, birth certificate, and driver's license. I'd sent it to myself during a job application and never deleted it. "Found your starting point," Yara said grimly. "What's the plan now?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Mason's flying in next week for a suit fitting. Isn't it wonderful? He's bringing his friend Bowen." "Perfect timing," I said, showing Yara the message. "Think it's time we had a chat with Bowen?" We tracked him down at the Marriott downtown. Mason's Instagram story had tagged him there, bragging about pre-graduation celebrations. The hotel bar was dimly lit, all leather and mahogany. Bowen sat alone, nursing what looked like an expensive whiskey. He was exactly as his photos suggested. Expensive watch, carefully styled hair, smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Bowen?" I slid onto the bar stool next to him. "I'm London, Mason's sister." He choked slightly on his drink. "London? The real London?" "The one and only. Mind explaining why my brother used my identity to enroll in a medical school he never attended?" Bowen's facade cracked. He glanced at the exit, but Yara was already blocking his path. "Look," he said, lowering his voice. "It wasn't personal. Mason needed credentials. I provided a service. I didn't know he was using his sister's identity. But you knew he was lying to his family? Taking their money?" "Mason's life, Mason's choices." Bowen shrugged, but his hands were shaking. "I just handle the paperwork." "Fraud," I corrected. "You handle fraud and identity theft. Wonder what the police would think about your document services business?" His face went pale. "You wouldn't. Try me." I pulled out my phone, showing him the screenshots of his transactions. "Start talking." The story spilled out. Mason had been expelled from his original medical school in the States for cheating. Desperate to keep the money flowing from our parents, he'd connected with Bowen online. They'd created a fake academic career using my stolen identity, forged documents, and carefully crafted social media posts. He said you'd never check, Bowen admitted. Said you were too busy being the family failure to notice. Something snapped inside me. I grabbed his whiskey and dumped it over his expensive shirt. Tell Mason I said hi. I smiled sweetly. And if either of you tries to warn him I'm onto this, I've got a lovely file ready for the fraud department. Back in my car, Yara let out a low whistle. That was badass. What now? Now? I pulled up my email, finding the graduation party invitation Mom had sent. Now we RSVP yes to the party of the century. But first, I dialed Dad's number. He answered on the first ring. London? Is everything okay? No, Dad, it's not. Meet me at Denny's in 20 minutes. Bring your reading glasses. You're going to want to see these documents clearly. I don't know if 20 minutes, Dad, or I start sending evidence to Mom's email instead. I hung up, catching Yara's concerned look. You sure about this? She asked. Once you start, there's no going back. I thought about years of being compared, dismissed, and devalued. About the credit cards maxed out in my name. About Mom's constant praise of her precious son while I worked overtime just to stay afloat. They wanted a doctor in the family so badly, I said, starting the car. Let's see how they handle a forensic accountant instead. Dad stared at the stack of papers I'd laid out on the sticky Denny's table, his coffee growing cold and forgotten. 7 credit cards, I said, pointing to the credit report. 3 personal loans, 2 car leases, all in my name, all traced back to Spain. Want to guess who's been making the minimum payments from an overseas account? He rubbed his temples. London, and here's the best part. I slid over the university documents. Remember that $40,000 you transferred last semester for his clinical rotations? Guess where it actually went? Please, he whispered. Your mother can't handle this kind of shock. Handle it? I laughed bitterly. Like I'm supposed to handle the $100,000 of fraudulent debt in my name? The waitress appeared with more coffee. Dad waited until she left before speaking. What do you want me to do? I want you to stop enabling him, stop pretending. And when I expose everything at his party, I want you to sit there and let the truth come out. He nodded slowly, defeated. As he gathered his coat to leave, he paused. Your mother, she wanted a doctor so badly. After losing your uncle to that misdiagnosis, it became her obsession, making sure no other family would suffer like that. So she sacrificed one child to create a fake version of another? I stood up. Great parenting, Dad. Really stellar work. Back at my apartment, I found Harley sitting on my doorstep. We need to talk, she said, standing quickly. Her mascara was smeared, hands fidgeting with her phone. About what? The monthly payments my brother's been making to you? She flinched. I can explain. Inside. I unlocked the door. You've got 5 minutes. Holly paced my living room while I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He contacted me 6 months ago, she started. Said he was worried about you, that you seemed unstable, obsessed with undermining his success. And the money? He called it a friendship maintenance fee. Said he'd pay me to keep an eye on you, report back if you started asking questions. I pulled up her Venmo history on my phone. $100 a month to spy on your friend. Real nice, Harley. I needed the money. She wiped at fresh tears. My mom's medical bills. Mason said he'd help, said once he was practicing medicine. He's not a doctor. I threw my phone onto the couch. He's never been a doctor. He's a fraud who's been stealing my identity and lying to everyone. Harley went pale. What? Check your messages. I just sent you proof. Every document, every transaction, every lie. I opened my front door. Now get out. London, please. Out! After she left, I sank onto my couch, exhaustion hitting hard. My phone buzzed with a text from Yara. Mom's going crazy with party prep. Aunt Veronica's helping. They're calling it the celebration of the decade. I smiled grimly. opening my laptop to continue building my presentation. They wanted a celebration? I'd give them one they'd never forget. Another text came through, unknown number. I opened it and felt my blood freeze. Back off, little sister. You're not the only one with documents. Remember that DUI charge that mysteriously disappeared from your record 3 years ago? Would be a shame if the medical board found out about that while investigating your fraud claims. My hands shook as I called Yara. He's bluffing, she said after I read her the text. The statute of limitations. It's not about legal consequences, I cut in. It's about Mom. She'd never forgive a DUI. It would prove everything she's ever said about me being the screw-up. So what? You're going to let him win? I stared at the evidence spread across my coffee table. Years of theft, lies, and manipulation, reduced to paper trails and bank statements. No, I said finally. I'm going to beat him at his own game. What's the play? I pulled up the graduation party invitation, focusing on the line about the video tribute Mom was planning. They want a presentation celebrating Mason's journey? I smiled darkly. Let's give them one. With some bonus footage they weren't expecting. You're going to hijack the tribute video? Better. I opened my email, composing a message to Bowen. I'm going to let Mason hang himself. One last grand performance before the curtain falls. And the DUI threat? I thought about Mom's face when she praised Mason, about Dad's quiet complicity, about years of being the family shame. Can't shame someone who's already owned their mistakes, I said. Unlike our golden boy, I actually learned from mine. My phone buzzed again, Mom requesting my contribution for the champagne fountain. Perfect. Let them drink up. They'd need it for what was coming. Perfect! Mom clapped her hands as the hotel staff positioned another flower arrangement. The roses match Mason's medical school colors exactly. I bit back a laugh, focusing on my laptop where I sat in the corner of the ballroom. 1 week until the party, and Mom had dragged me along for the final preparations. London, honey, are you working on the tribute video like I asked? Almost done, Mom. I smiled sweetly. Just adding some special touches. Aunt Veronica bustled over, iPad in hand. The RSVP list is incredible. 3 hospital directors, 2 department heads. She peered at my screen. Oh, is that the video? Show me. I angled the laptop away. It's a surprise. You know, for the big day. Speaking of surprises, Mom said, Mason just texted. He's landing tomorrow. We're having a small family dinner to welcome him home. My stomach clenched. Sorry, can't make it. Work deadline. London, Mom's voice sharpened. Your brother has been studying medicine in Europe for years. The least you can do is... Virginia! Dad's voice cut through the ballroom. He stood in the doorway, face ashen. We need to talk. Now. I watched them hurry into the hallway, Dad clutching what looked suspiciously like the documents I'd shown him at Denny's. Aunt Veronica sidled closer. Trouble in paradise? No idea. I saved my video file and closed the laptop. But I'm sure Mason will make everything better. He always does. My phone buzzed. A text from Yara. Mason's at my coffee shop with Harley. I grabbed my things. Sorry, emergency at work. See you next week. I made it to the coffee shop in record time. Through the window, I could see them. Mason in his expensive suit, Harley looking nervous as she talked. What's the plan? Yara appeared beside me, holding 2 coffees. We watch and record. Through the glass, we could see Harley sliding something across the table. Papers? Mason checked them, then pulled out his wallet. Got it, Yara whispered, her phone capturing everything. Cash payment in exchange for documents. Very subtle, bro. My phone rang. Mom. I declined the call, but her text came through immediately. Your father is being ridiculous. Come home now. Family meeting. Go, Yara said. I'll keep surveillance here. I found them in the living room. Mom pacing, Dad slumped in his chair, a familiar stack of papers on the coffee table. Finally, Mom grabbed my arm. Tell your father he's being paranoid. These accusations about Mason are absurd. They're not accusations, I said quietly. They're facts, bank statements, legal documents, proof. Proof of what? Mason's voice came from the doorway. He stood there in his perfect suit, perfect smile, looking exactly like the successful doctor everyone believed him to be. Mom rushed to hug him. Mason, thank God you're here. Your father and sister are telling ridiculous stories. About what? He met my eyes over Mom's shoulder. About my credentials? Or about the money? About all of it, I said. Game over, Mason. He laughed, pulling out his phone. Speaking of games, sis, remember that night 3 years ago when you called me crying about hitting that parked car? The owner wanted to press charges for drunk driving but mysteriously decided not to? Mom went still. What is he talking about? Yeah, London. Mason's smile turned cruel. What am I talking about? I took a deep breath. I made a mistake, one I regret, but at least I didn't build my entire life on fraud and theft. London, Mom gasped. Let her talk, Dad said suddenly. For once in our lives, let's hear what London has to say. Mason's phone buzzed. He checked it, his smile faltering slightly. Problem? I asked innocently. Maybe Bowen warning you that the police are asking questions about your document services business? You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled out my own phone, showing him the video Yara had just sent, him paying off Harley in the coffee shop. Seems I learned something from you after all, big brother. Always keep receipts. Mom started to speak, but Mason cut her off. The party's in a week. You really want to do this? Destroy the family's reputation? The family's reputation? I laughed. You mean your reputation, your lies, your fraud. London? He said softly, dangerously. Last chance. Back off, or everyone learns exactly what kind of daughter they raised. I walked to the door, pausing to look back at my family. Mom's confusion, Dad's resignation, Mason's barely concealed panic. See you at the party, brother dear. I've put together quite a tribute. You might even say it's life-changing. The Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom sparkled with crystal and candlelight. A string quartet played softly in the corner while waiters circulated with champagne. The projector screen loomed large at the front of the room, waiting. You sure about this? Yara whispered, adjusting my simple black dress. Once you push play, I'm sure. I checked my phone. Everything was queued up and ready. Where's Mason? Making his grand entrance in 10 minutes. Your mom's got it choreographed like a royal wedding. I scanned the room. Dad sat alone at a corner table, nursing what looked like scotch. Aunt Veronica fluttered between guests, pointing out the expensive decorations. Harley huddled near the bar, jumping every time someone approached her. London! Mom's voice cut through the crowd. The video tribute needs to be ready before Mason arrives. Did you finish it? I patted my laptop bag. All set, Mom. Just like you wanted. A perfect celebration of Mason's journey. She beamed, pulling me into a tight hug that smelled of expensive perfume and desperation. I knew you'd come around, finally supporting your brother like you should. Oh, I'm supporting exactly what he deserves. Before she could respond, the string quartet switched to a dramatic flourish. The grand doors swung open. Mason stood there in a tailored tuxedo, Bowen at his side. The crowd burst into applause as he made his way through the room, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. Dr. Garcia, someone called out. You must be so proud. I caught Bowen's flinch at the title. He knew what was coming. Mason reached the front of the room, tapping his glass for attention. Thank you all for coming tonight. Family, friends, distinguished colleagues. My finger hovered over the laptop's enter key. As I stand here, about to begin my medical career, I think about the journey that brought me here, the sacrifices my family made. Dad stood abruptly, his chair scraping loud against the floor. Mason faltered for a moment but continued. the unwavering support of my mother, the generosity of my father. Yara squeezed my hand. Now? Not yet. Wait for it. And yes, even my sister London, who... Mason's eyes found mine across the room. Who has always been there, in her own way. Now, I whispered, and pressed enter. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life. Mom clasped her hands excitedly as the first slides appeared. Childhood photos, graduation pictures, carefully staged shots of Mason in scrubs. Then the screen went black. Technical difficulties? Aunt Veronica called out. The next slide appeared, Mason's official expulsion letter from his first medical school. Then another, screenshots of his transactions with Bowen, credit card statements in my name, bank transfers, Venmo payments for fake documents. The room went silent. What is this? Mom's voice shook. London, what are you doing? The final slide appeared. A police report filed yesterday, detailing identity theft and fraud charges against Mason Garcia and Bowen Wallace. Mason lunged for the projector. This is ridiculous. A jealous sister's attempt to... To what? I stood, my voice carrying across the stunned room. To expose the truth? That you never finished medical school? That you've been living off stolen money and forged documents? Security! Mom screamed. Remove her! Actually, a voice called from the back, we're here for someone else. 2 police officers stepped forward, moving toward Mason and Bowen. No, Mom whispered. No, this isn't happening. Mason looked around wildly, then bolted for the side door. He made it 3 steps before an officer caught him. Mason Garcia, you're under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, and financial crimes. The room erupted into chaos. Guests fled for the exits. Mom collapsed into a chair, while Aunt Veronica frantically dialed her phone. Dad just stood there, watching as his son was handcuffed. London, Mason called as they led him past me. You'll regret this. Family is supposed to protect each other. Funny, I replied. I don't remember you protecting me when you stole my identity, or when you paid my friends to spy on me, or when you threatened to expose my DUI to destroy my career. A DUI? Mom's head snapped up. Yes, Mom. 3 years ago. I made a mistake, took responsibility, and learned from it, unlike your perfect son. As Mason disappeared through the doors, Yara appeared with my coat. Show's over, she said softly. Let's go. I looked at my shattered family one last time. Mom's mascara-streaked face, Dad's empty eyes, Aunt Veronica's frantic damage control. The truth hurts, I said to no one in particular, but lies destroy. The champagne fountain burbled quietly in the corner, celebrating nothing. The morning after the party, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Local news had picked up the story. Fake doctor's graduation party ends in arrest. I ignored the calls and drove to my parents' house. Mom sat in her dark living room, still wearing her party dress from last night. Empty wine bottles littered the coffee table. How could you? Her voice was raw. Your own brother. How could I? I stepped into the room. How could you let him steal my identity, drain our family's savings, live a lie for years? He was going to pay it all back. She hurled a wine glass at the wall. It shattered, leaving a red stain like a wound. Once he was established, successful. He was never going to be a doctor, Mom. He failed out years ago. Everything since then has been fraud. Virginia. Dad appeared in the doorway, looking like he hadn't slept. She's right. I found more documents this morning. Bank statements, loan applications. Mason's been running this scheme since college. Mom's face crumpled. No, you're both wrong. My son wouldn't. Your son did. I pulled out my phone, showing her the police report. And now he's facing federal charges, along with Bowen and everyone else involved in their little document fraud ring, including your friend Harley, Dad added quietly. She confessed everything to the police this morning. A harsh laugh escaped Mom's throat. At least Harley was loyal to someone in this family. Loyal? I stepped closer. She took bribes to spy on me. Just like Mason took your money to fund his parties. Just like you took my future to feed his lies. I gave him everything, Mom whispered. Exactly. Everything, including me. The doorbell rang. Dad opened it to find Aunt Veronica clutching newspapers. It's everywhere, she announced, spreading them across the table. Social media, too. Everyone's talking about the fake doctor scandal. Mom grabbed the nearest paper, then froze. The headline screamed, "Mother claims ignorance in medical school fraud case." What? She scanned the article. Who talked to the press? I did. Dad's voice was firm. This morning. They needed to know you were a victim too, Virginia. That Mason fooled us all. Fooled us? Mom stood shakily. No, I knew something wasn't right. The stories that didn't match, the endless requests for money. I knew, but I couldn't. I couldn't let go of the dream. The room went silent. Even Aunt Veronica stopped her nervous fidgeting. You knew, I whispered. All this time? I wanted it so badly. Mom sank back down. A doctor in the family. Someone to prevent what happened to your uncle. I thought if I believed hard enough, supported him enough, you could force it to be true? I laughed bitterly. While destroying your actual children in the process? Children? She looked up sharply. You were fine. You had your little accounting job, your practical life. I was drowning in debt he created, working overtime to pay off cards he opened in my name, watching you praise him while treating me like a disappointment. Virginia, Dad cut in. Stop. Just stop. Mom's phone buzzed. Mason's lawyer, requesting bail money. She stared at it, then slowly set it face down. I can't fix this, can I? She whispered. No, I said, you can't. Aunt Veronica cleared her throat. The country club is suggesting we cancel our membership, temporarily, until this blows over. Mom buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook with sobs. I'm moving out, Dad announced suddenly. Taking some time at my brother's place. I need space to think. Abraham, please. Mom reached for him, but he stepped back. We all need space, I said, gathering my things, to figure out who we are without Mason's lies holding us together. London, Mom called as I reached the door. The DUI, why didn't you tell us? I turned back one last time. Because I knew you'd never forgive my mistake while excusing all of his. Funny how that worked out, isn't it? Outside, Yara waited in her car. How'd it go? About as well as detonating a nuclear bomb in the middle of a family could go. I buckled my seatbelt. Dad's leaving. Mom's breaking. Mason's lawyer is already working on bail. And you? I thought about the weight I'd carried for years. The debt, the lies, the constant comparison to a brother who never really existed. I'm free, I said simply. For the first time in my life, I'm actually free. Where to now? I pulled out my phone, deleting the dozens of missed calls from relatives and reporters. Anywhere but here. The truth's out. The golden boy's crown is broken. Time to let the pieces fall where they may. The courthouse corridor felt too bright, too sterile. I smoothed my blazer, watching Mason being led in, wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of his usual designer suits. Ready? Yara squeezed my shoulder. Born ready. Inside, the judge shuffled papers while Mason's lawyer made final arguments. Mom sat in the back row alone. Dad hadn't returned her calls since moving out. Aunt Veronica had mysteriously developed a sudden need to vacation in Florida. Before sentencing, the judge said, would the victim like to make a statement? I stood, my heels clicking against the floor as I approached the podium. Mason wouldn't meet my eyes. Your Honor, my brother stole more than just my identity. He stole years of trust, family relationships, and financial security. He, oh, spare us the dramatics, Mason interrupted. We all know this was just jealousy. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Garcia, control yourself or I'll have you removed. I continued, stronger now. My brother created an elaborate fantasy of success, funded by fraud and enabled by our family's willful blindness. He didn't just steal money, he stole our ability to see truth, to trust each other, to be honest about who we really are. Mom made a small sound in the back of the courtroom. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for accountability, for recognition that no amount of family loyalty should excuse criminal behavior, that no parent's dreams should cost their children their futures. The judge nodded. Thank you, Miss Garcia. Please be seated. The sentence came down hard. 5 years for fraud, identity theft, and running a document forgery ring. Bowen got 3 years. Harley took a plea deal for testimony. As they led Mason away, Mom rushed forward. Wait, please just let me... Mason turned, and for a moment I saw something real in his eyes. Fear, maybe even regret. Mom, he said softly, I'm sorry. Not for what I did, but for failing to become what you needed me to be. The guards continued moving. Mom stood frozen until a court officer gently guided her away. Outside, reporters swarmed us. I pushed through them to find Dad waiting by his car. You did good in there, he said, hugging me awkwardly. Want to grab coffee? The diner was quiet, just us and a few truckers. Dad stirred his coffee endlessly. I sold the house, he said finally. Your mother's moving in with her sister temporarily. I'm keeping my apartment. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. We all do. He looked up. We need to rebuild, separately, figure out who we are without the lies. My phone buzzed, a text from my bank. The first restitution payment from Mason's seized assets had been deposited. I started a support group, I said, for victims of familial identity theft. You'd be surprised how common it is. Dad smiled slightly. Always the practical one, even now. Someone had to be. We sat in comfortable silence until Dad pulled out an envelope. Found this in the house cleanup. Your 5th grade report card. Straight A's in math. I should have seen it then. You were the real prodigy, just in a different field. I took the worn paper, remembering how proud I'd been, how Mom had barely glanced at it before rushing to Mason's soccer game. I'm not angry anymore, I realized suddenly. I'm just done with the comparisons, the expectations, the family mythology. Good. Dad reached across the table, squeezing my hand. That's good. My phone buzzed again, Yara sending a link to my blog about family fraud. The comments section was filled with similar stories, people finding strength to confront their own golden children and enabler parents. You know what's funny? I said, showing Dad the comments. By exposing Mason's lies, I finally became what Mom always wanted, someone who helps other families avoid tragedy. Just not in the way she imagined. No, I smiled. Better, because it's real. Outside, the sun was setting. Dad hugged me goodbye, promising to come to dinner next week. As I walked to my car, I saw Mom across the street, watching. She raised her hand in a small wave, then turned and walked away. I didn't wave back. Some distances need to stay uncrossed, some breaks need to stay broken. Not out of anger or revenge, but because sometimes healing means accepting that not everything can or should be fixed. My phone lit up with another comment notification. Thank you for sharing your story. It gave me courage to face my own family's lies. I smiled, starting my car. The truth hadn't given me the perfect family I dreamed of as a child. It had given me something better, freedom to be imperfectly, authentically myself. And that was worth more than all of Mason's fake degrees combined.